Well, let's quickly look at, well, we're still looking at some of the promises made by both candidates of the PDP and the APC on the campaign trail, especially for the 2019 elections. I still have with me in the studio Mr. Sulaiman Abba, who is a former Inspector General of Police, a member of the Security and Intelligence Committee, Presidential Campaign Council, and a member of the Advisory Council, APC Women and Youth Presidential Campaign Team. And I also have with me Mr. Sani Umar, who is the spokesperson of the Presidential Campaign Council of the People's Democratic Party. Well, sir, you were just speaking before we went on break that you had not heard anywhere where your candidate has said he was going to do just one term.
Yes, I have not heard anywhere where he has never addressed us, he has never told us directly anywhere that this is his plan to spend one term. And like I was saying, I said new things I imagine. Now, these are entirely my opinion on this matter. For instance, can you waive your right made on the basis of promises? The law gives you a right that once you are elected, you are entitled to spend 2 terms. Would you be able to waive it away because of certain political interest? Or if you refuse to waive that away, would you have been seen to have committed an offense by, actually following the law as it is stipulated?
So that's what you're asking Nigerians to consider now, even while he makes that promise? Because some people were saying he was speaking on the premise of the fact that there is this rotation. It is not agreed, but it is, it is not spoken, but it is almost agreed or taken for granted that when the North does 2 terms, the South will do 2 terms. And if President Buhari has already done 1 term, he's taking 1 term for the North. If President Atiku is going to come in, Vice President Atiku is going to come in, beg your pardon, he is going to be doing just 1 term as well. People say he spoke on that premise, just to assure the South that when he's done with 1 term, it will go back to the South.
You see, the issues are not about, an understanding or an MOU, which is unwritten, because the APC has their own manifesto, and they have their own plans, and they have the way they structure their power rotation. And so does the PDP. Now, we cannot, on the basis of what APC has done...
Rotation is actually from the PDP.
Yeah?
Rotation is from the PDP.
What you are saying is Buhari has done 2 terms. You are bringing the issue of Buhari
I'm bringing in the issue of rotation, so which the PDP started, which almost seems to be accepted largely now, even by the APC. They are also basing their calculations on that sentiment. Now,
the APC Buhari has done is trying to aspire to do his 8 years.
Yes.
So if he completes his 8 years...
The 8 years for the North?
For himself. It's not for the North. He's doing it for himself. Because Atiku is also from the North.
Are you oblivious of the fact that there is a rotation, there is some rotation, pattern?
Understanding.
Exactly, understanding
within
the 2 regions major regions of the country?
When something is not law, you do not cite it as, a standing matter. It is not a law. It is just an understanding.
When you see just how big a role that played in the 2015 elections, some people might argue that one of the reasons why your candidate lost was because they said he was only going to do 1 term, and that he had already used, he was using up the term of the North.
He has challenged people, even then, to bring out any document where he signed or whatever he said, anywhere that he was going to do 1 term. So we cannot be speaking, from the rumor mill and be assigning.
I wasn't speaking specifically on whether he said or he didn't say. I'm talking about the sentiment that trailed it. That's what I'm speaking on.
Yes, so if there is a sentiment, it must have a basis. The sentiment cannot just come without a basis.
Is it now missing from the PDP constitution, that rotation, that agreement?
It has never been in the PDP constitution. It has never been.
Okay. I think my take on this is this. If, for any reason, a political party the candidate of a political party will come out and say his mind on how he intends to spend the terms that he's entitled to, and then people as close to him as his spokesman or spokesperson would think differently, then I think it's all about the issue of trust.
No, I think you are missing the point.
It's all about the issue of trust.
The issue she raised
And in leadership, once there is no trust,
gentlemen, let us not go into this, because
yes, right.
your candidate he's quoted to have said that
and
in
this interview, publicized.
Your candidate also made that promise in 2011. We've had people who have come here to argue that, yes, he made that argument in 2011 because of the sentiment at the time. But now here he is in office 2015, and he's done one term, and he's seeking another. Why should we believe that he too, you know, maybe will not be seeking a third term, as was rumored?
If at all there was anything like that, I'm sure it was not as widely publicized as this one. In this one, I can remember he was even naming names of people who will witness the signing of his undertaking. And there was nothing like that in 2015 with so I think there's no basis for comparison.
Can you assist us with the names?
No, she had even quoted the paper.
Okay, now
she quoted the paper.
Gentlemen, I don't want to go into this because I'm not holding the clear piece of the paper right now.
Leadership is about trust.
But this is what your candidate has been quoted to have said in a This Day interview. Perhaps if we see him one-on-one, we can still say whether, you know, because you have said you're speaking entirely on your own opinion on this particular matter.
Yes.
But this is what your candidate has said. Ms. IGP, but let's quickly look at the issue of security again. This time around, from the terms of banditry in the north, in the Northwest. Some people will argue that we did not have banditry in the Northwest prior to 2015. What has happened? Did your candidate drop the ball in terms of security, especially as regards the Northwest?
No, I think it would be wrong to say that we didn't have it. I was, even as far back as 2013, there was problem in Brunungwari. And it is the same stretch from Brunungwari up to Zamfara. And he is from Kaduna State, he will confirm that. It is the same stretch, and the problem has been there for as far back, like I said, as 2013. Because I can recall as AIG, I had to go to Kaduna few times or sometimes when incidents of killings intense. I can remember there was a time about 50 people were killed in a mosque in Brunungwari.
Killings
so what I want to say is that...
Intense and the hundreds?
No, what
as we're seeing now?
Well, of course.
Like of course, Zamfara was as unsafe as it is now?
It wasn't as problematic as it is now, but it was a problem as far back as 2013. And let me give you why these problems are escalating. Remember, arms, they used to be very difficult to get, are now quite available. Since the incident in Libya, arms have found their ways into wrong hands and in many West African countries. And Nigeria is not an exception. This is a problem that is happening in Niger Republic, in the Cameroons, in Mali, and so on. So this...
The question is solutions. Because we were not oblivious to the fact that, you know, I think a lot of people, analysts, already said that this was going to happen. When Libya falls and, you know, arms gets into the hands of rebels, it was going to make its way down here.
It is a big challenge for the security agencies, but I must say that...
Which we are part of.
Yes, quite achievements, a lot of achievements have been made. You can recall there are so many operations launched by the military that have made remarkable successes, whether in Zamfara or in Kaduna State, in Brunungwari area. And you recall they were giving problem to Niger State for a very long time, between Niger State and Kaduna. And now the problem is shifting to Zamfara. And you can see a lot of efforts are being made. The Air Force has opened a base in Katsina, and quite a number of them are being taken out.
Let's quickly go to Lagos. My colleagues have questions for you.
Mr. Alba, let me ask you, I mean, you know, while you said that close to your becoming IG, you normally will take off your uniform before you get into where you're going because of the security situation. But could you then tell us, when you became IGP, what did you do to change that?
Well, let me say that security challenges are not just the responsibilities of one organization. Yes, I was Inspector General of Police, and yes, some of these challenges have been there. But it is also on record that a lot of successes were achieved, not only in the northern part of the country, but even in the Niger Delta area. If now we are saying that these problems have escalated, those of us who served in the past, and it means you are making comparison, it is a clear indication that we did a lot and we achieved a lot. And remember, I was Inspector General of Police at a time when the elections were just around the corner. And a lot of efforts were put in there, and the records are there. 2015 is a big success.
Could you be a little more specific? What specific efforts? Because the question is, what did you do? 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 The question is,
I still repeat, the records are there. The records are there. If I was Inspector General of Police, and the police is not the only organization that is charged with the responsibility of securing the country, a lot of efforts were done, some in collaboration with other security agencies, quite a number of them achieved by police officers at the zonal, the command, and the divisional levels. And they were all highly reported. Remember, we were given almost weekly, fortnight, and monthly reports on achievements made. It will be, I think, unfair to me to expect that after 4 years, almost 4 years, I will have all these records on my head.
Because it sounds a little contradictory. I thought, you know, at the point you said, well,
what is contradictory in what I say? Just mention the contradiction, please.
Initially, you said that the challenges were there, the security was not good enough, there were talk about postponement of elections, and now you talk about the successes and achievements that were made in the same breath. So how exactly do we assess your comments?
Well, that was in answer to a question that is relating to general security insurgency. That was relating to insurgency. And remember, it is not just the police that is managing insurgency. In fact, the military is more involved in managing insurgency than the police. So don't mix up the two things. There are two different issues altogether.
Speaking about the police, because initially you were speaking about the military, how the military is faring and what they're doing. Which of the strategies that you adopted at that time would you recommend to the new IGP moving forward about policing and their contribution to tackling insurgency?
Well, I will always advise the Inspector General of Police, and this we have a responsibility to do, to ensure that his officers are very well trained. Before you assign anyone for any mission at all, you should have him properly briefed, well trained, and then I will expect that he will put as much pressure as is expected to have the attention of the federal government so that their needs are taken care of, both in terms of equipment and in terms of the welfare of the personnel, so that they will put in their best.
People are really concerned now that we're just having 6 days to the elections, especially those in the Northeast, with regards to security and how that could affect the voting pattern when we get to that point. For instance, in Madagali, we had attacks just yesterday. Are you aware of that, and how can the police play a vital role to ensure that people are even able to go out in the first instance to vote?
Well, you recall I was deeply involved in assessing the reasons why the election was shifted in 2015. And in comparison to what we have now, it will be foolhardy for anybody to even begin to say that elections be shifted because there are incidents of insurgency. The Borno state government, the Adamawa state government, Yobe state government, and others around there that are experiencing complete peace are now coming up to say that we have security challenges to shift the election. I have not had INEC for one day talking about insecurity. So I think the basis for comparison is not there. If there was an incident in Madagali, the military that are handling the fight against Boko Haram or insurgents there will clearly advise whether they can give adequate security enough for elections to hold in Madagali. But this time around, we're not talking about Madagali and others around them. We're not talking about Bama. We're not talking about Dukwa, which was the case in 2015. And that's why elections were shifted to enable more arrangements or more fight or more successes with regards to the fight against insurgency. There is no basis for comparison at all. Let us not politicize this. Let us not allow the insurgents to succeed in their propaganda. We have relative peace. There's a lot of progress being made. All the state governments are accepting the fact that they are ready for elections, and INEC is working in that regard. And I'm sure the security agencies have done a lot to ensure that they give adequate protection to INEC personnel and the materials, to give adequate protection to the electorate, to enable them exercise their civil rights, to give adequate protection to even those who don't want to go and exercise the polls, perhaps either because they are underage or because they are foreigners or for many other reasons that may exist. So there is no basis for comparison at all.